Hi all, it's Gemma here with another video. So I've decided to get a bit more organised with this. So what I'm going to do, I've taken one of the poems from my book, 50 Shades of Insight, and I've decided to break it down because it's about sub-personalities. The subheading in the brackets is aspects of myself. So basically, sub-personalities, what is a sub-personality and how do they form? So a sub-personality is during different times in our lives when we go through certain experiences, it's almost like bits of us get stuck in moments, and those moments can become in conflict with one another, or those personalities can become in conflict with one another, because if they're not integrated, they tend to stick around. And because they're formed at different times, say for instance, just as an example, it can lead to stuff like patterns of procrastination. So you could have one part that gets up in the morning and says, okay, I'm going to do this, this and this now. And then you've got another part that comes in, that creeps in and scuppers it, sabotages it in any variety of ways. And they can become problematic when there's a lot of them overlapping and vying for attention. So a lot of them form in childhood again, I think, as well. So I'm looking at my list now because I've got my little checklist of what I want to cover. So there is actually a therapy that's very good for these fragmented parts, for healing and integrating them. It's called internal family systems, and it's where a therapist will take you through dialoguing with the different fragmented bits and get them chatting to one another in order to bring them into balance. And they link quite strongly with things like schizophrenia, because, and more pronounced as well. I mean, obviously schizophrenia is on the severe end of mental health. It is the severe end of mental health. It's one of the labels that is classed as severe mental impairment, and they can be very conflicting. They can really show up in more extreme ways as well than they would in someone who doesn't have that label. So what I'm going to do now is read you the poem. It's called, as I said, Sub-Personality Aspects of Myself. It's quite a long one, bear with. There are within me aspects fighting to be heard, different personalities asking me to care. There is an inner psychopath who's devilish and fierce. He comes through as Satan, and in darkness I'm immersed. He hunts down the goddess, the Isis within me, the priestess of the mysteries who's so powerful, you see. And yet the inner victim, her power it does fear. So instead of stepping into it, the devil she keeps near. He taunts the inner victim and says she's powerless, that desperate exiled inner child that believes that she's no good. Then there's the inner critic, at me oh so often, watching my every move so my heart struggles to soften. It is deeply judgmental of others and myself, tearing me to pieces with its guilt pillow it smothers. It picks at me and says I'm wrong, do you F up all you touch? And yet it just needs integrating through appreciation and through love. Then there is the doubter who questions all I do. Are you sure, Gemma? This could be a wrong move. I also have an obsessive part, lonely in her neediness. She's crazy and she's desperate, on a quest for worthiness. These are different aspects and often they conflict. They sometimes club together and pain they do inflict. And yet they're there to help me. They exist just to protect. Their intention's only positive. On this I do reflect. My inner devil psychopath tries to protect me from my power. It fears me being sexual, so my vibration it does lower. It protects my inner child who's frightened of abuse and scared that if she's told she's loved, she will be consumed. The abused little gem doesn't want me to feel pleasure and tries so hard to protect me from my clitoral treasure. And so my inner child keeps the men at bay, so I cannot show my pussy to the devil to scare him away. My inner child is terrified I'll process and let go, and own my sexuality, for in pleasure I relinquish control. And my inner critic, who tells me I've done wrong, is trying to stop history repeating a part it doesn't realise is gone. The doubter chips away at me to stop me speaking up. If I second guess myself, it can get me to shut up. It's afraid I have a voice and scared that I'll be heard because it thinks I will be hurt if my identity is clear. The obsessive crazy woman chases men away in order to protect them. In order to protect her, she won't let them stay. And so they all protect me, each in their own ways. The similarities cross over, but their objective is the same. Love and pleasure I find scary, so they lock me in, to stop me losing self-control and freeing the woman within. I acknowledge and respect each and every part for trying to look after me by shutting down my heart. So thank you, personalities, for being who you are. I love and honour all of you. Together we'll go far. So I own now all these aspects and acknowledge them as me. Gee, you are you, Gemma. I step into autonomy. So that's the poem that I wrote for the book. And it covers the main fragmented personalities that I dealt with. It's funny, I learned to give them names and to separate them more through looking into internal family systems therapy. I've never had it myself, even though I've had lots of different therapies over the years. That's not one I actually did, but I did read a book on it. So going on from the poem, The Doubter, that's the one I'm going to cover today. But what I'm going to do is like a little mini short series within my other videos. So I'm going to do The Doubter, the Victim, the Inner Critic, the devilish sort of psychopathic, slightly. That's not as scary as it sounds, although it can seem scary when you're going through it. Trust me, it's I say it's not as scary as it sounds. I don't want to downplay it, actually, because schizophrenia, a lot of us have a lot of religious stuff that comes through, and a lot of us with that label deal with devil stuff, and it's actually bloody terrifying when you're going through it. But the thing is when you're level enough, or getting to the point where you're level enough, you can start dealing with these personalities and they become less and less scary over time. The devil is ultimately there for liberation, you know. It's about freedom and becoming what is it? Be in the world, not of the world, or is it be of the world, not in? No, be in the world, not of the world, which is sort of like a statement that applies to the more enlightened state, and that is kind of what can happen as a result of trauma and difficult life experiences. It is raw fodder to be transmuted. It has a lot of potential. That doesn't mean you don't have to go through blood, sweat, toil, tears and years of, and obviously it's going to vary from person to person. What I'm saying is there's a lot of potentiality in there if you go on the healing journey and learn as you're going, you know, because we learn through doing. And what was it I read once? We find the answers by living the questions, and I thought that was a great statement because it is true. So yeah, the other sub-personalities I'll cover: the obsessive needy woman and the wounded inner child as well. So the doubter, how did that manifest in me? That was a crippling one for years and years and years. The doubter linked in with hearing voices and seeing visual stuff as well, because it was kind of like I'd have thoughts such as, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? That's why I included it in the poem. I'd literally have the intrusive thought or voice, are you sure? And so it's my subconscious way of saying, oh God, if you do this or you do that, what if it's a wrong move? And so obviously that can result in things like procrastination, crippling self-doubt can. And it was crippling for a very long time. I literally doubted. You can almost doubt yourself into insanity. And that's just reminded me years and years ago in my first ever episode, Altered State, Fragmentation, call it what you will, when it was at its most extreme, not long before I got labelled. The words randomly in third person came into my head. Madness is self-doubt in operation. And of course, in retrospect, I pondered this and I thought, what the heck does that mean? And it was kind of like, yeah, you become so unsure of yourself that you literally have over time doubted yourself into insanity. These videos are never about judgment of the self and giving yourself a hard time, because they're patterns that exist that need breaking through. And actually the antidote to all of that is compassion, but that can take bloody years to break through, depending on what you've been through and depending on how easily self-compassion comes to you. And that all, again, roots in childhood, stuff like that. So yeah, third person thinking as well, I think I touched on briefly just now. when, again, going back to my first ever episode, I remember talking to a care worker on the ward as they'd put me back on meds and I was coming to, and I said to her, during that time, I think it was about 10 months where I was in it altogether, and during that time, by the end, I had no first person thoughts left at all. Everything was in the third person, and not just voices, it was intrusive thoughts, which had piled up years before. So it was intrusive thoughts, it was voices. And when I say voices, anything from, well, angels, demons, goddesses. It went through quite an angelic phase with me first during that episode, and then a very dark, demonic, horrible being hunted down by the devil phase. A phase that I've been through many times, actually, whenever I've come off the meds, but that I'm right on the tail end of integrating a lot more fully now. And I say that, obviously I am back on the meds at the moment, but if you do the work while you're on them, of course you're laying the groundwork then for what could potentially come about as a result of that. So, because I do, fingers crossed, still hope one day, as I said in one of the former videos, to be able to be free of medication. And the fact that I went 9 months, and the fact that, okay, yes, I was struggling. I was like, what was it? Someone described me as once, like a duck. So I look so calm on the surface and then paddling like Billy O under the water, you know. But the reality is it is getting better. I am integrating these parts, and it is possible. It's not impossible. It doesn't mean everyone who's had the label will one day be able to heal and integrate to the point where they can go med free. But I'd love to see the day where these things were dealt with in a different way, and people weren't just labelled and medicated and then left to bloody get on with it, because it's not the right approach. It just isn't. And there's ways of raising awareness on lots of things, so that as adults change and heal and integrate, it then has an impact on kids and the younger generation. And we need to do that, because it's important that when we're children, that we have a childhood, and that it's healthy and it's got good caregivers. And if the adults are falling apart, they're not able then to impart that on the kids. And so the more and more people, the more awareness I can raise, the more understanding I can get out there, the more we can start impacting ourselves, but children as well at a younger level, so that these sorts of things can gradually over time so that mental health can gradually over time begin to get better across the board. So that's why, one of the main reasons why I share my story, and one of my main objectives. So another thing I wanted to say is, in life, and I know, don't get me wrong, I know how hard this is, and I do know, I'm not saying these things because I haven't lived through them, I'm saying them because I have. So it's not that I'm telling anyone to do anything that I haven't, I'm not telling anyone to do what to do anyway. It's more recommendations, or just, if this helps, it helps, because what works for one won't work for another. But waiting to get well, it doesn't really work. And why it doesn't work, we tend to have these views in our heads of when this happens, then I'll do this. When I feel better, I will do this. It's not a helpful approach. I understand why, because you feel crushed by what you're going through. I get that totally. But small apples are sweet, baby steps, little victories, you know, because we do learn through doing, because we do have to live the questions to find the answers. We can't do that if we're locking ourselves away. That anxiety grows stronger. That inner darkness gets darker, you know. There's so many ways of finding support, and because more and more people unfortunately are suffering, it's paradoxically a good thing as well, because that means more and more answers are coming to the fore. So, but my heart goes out to anyone with any kind of severe mental health label, because it is a bloody rough ride, and I send love to all of you. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. So what I'm going to do now to tie up this particular video, so that's the doubter and how it worked with me. Like I say, lots of crippling self-doubt that just drove me into total bloody madness. I felt like everything about me was wrong. And it does link into what I was saying in one of the former videos, things like guilt and stuff, where you feel like you always feel like you've done something wrong. Like the phone could go and it's like, oh no, someone's going to say I've done something. What have I done now? It's just that constant feeling of wrongness. And also lack of confidence. And I had a deep lack of confidence for quite a long time. And I was confident as a kid, though, for the most part, until the trauma and everything I'd been through at a young age, around about the time I hit puberty, began to kick in. I did have moments of, my natural personality is what I'm trying to say is quite a confident one. But it took a long time to build on, to reclaim it and then build on it, a long time. So I am going to leave you with another poem, and it's kind of in the vein of, it's called Move Forward to Surrender. So you probably, from the title, get what I'm alluding to, that that waiting for things to get better, although it's understandable, will actually only increase whatever you're experiencing and make it grow. So here's the poem. The act of letting go, to surrender to the flow, releasing all that's old and stale, is a seed I'd love to grow. But in me is resistance. I grip and cling and hold, believing I'm not worthy of stepping from my comfort zone. I'm afraid of all that lies beyond. I admit it, yes, it's true. I don't feel I can handle all the change that would ensue. And yet I know my fears are based only on the past. So in choosing to move forward, those memories will not last. I'll push through my conditioning with courage, faith and hope. For whatever life does bring my way, I know I'll learn to cope. And as I take each step, belief in me will grow. My old skin gradually will shed, and my objective I will own. So yeah, that's just my way of putting into words what I said beforehand, that feeling there was a book written years ago, I think, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, it was called, and I just love the caption. I don't know if anyone's ever heard that statement, but there's a lot of truth to it. So definitely, yeah, feel the fear, do it anyway. And it's not that I'm advocating the book particularly, but or that I'm not. It's irrelevant really. But yeah. So what was I going to say? What was I going to say? It's interesting, I'm just observing myself when I'm reading these poems. It's I'm trying to find a way so that I'm not like so that I can look at the camera. What I'm saying is I could memorize it, but to be honest, I'd probably get it wrong. So it's better that I'm waffling again. I do this. I bloody waffle. I do waffle. I think it's best that I leave this video here, but if you do, as ever, like my content, like, share, subscribe, please. Only if you want to. And yeah, but if you do, it's greatly appreciated. And also, if you've stayed to the end of this video, or even just for clicking on it, well, you're not going to hear me say this if you haven't stayed till the end, but if you have, thank you very much. It's greatly appreciated. Love to you all. Bye. See you soon, hopefully.